Hey, what's up, adventurers? Seth with Cactus Totem Entertainment here, bringing you an exclusive look at our combat filter. Daniel is in the in one of the boardrooms, kind of cooking up the secret sauce, as it were, for how combat is working, and it's going to give a much more in-depth explanation of how it works, how things are going to flow within a turn of combat, and once you get that, you'll have the secret to knowing how to run a mythic turn, and it's going to be awesome. But let's go ahead and check in with him. Come on.
Hey, hold on. What are you guys doing?
Oh, we're just kind of giving a sneak peek to everybody about what the combat filter's about.
Oh, so, okay. So, if you've ever played Mythic in the past, you'll know that combat has been, well, it's been kind of itchy. I mean, if you look in a rule book, it's only about 2 pages long, and combat now is easily over 10 pages in getting there. So we've worked really hard to actually define how combat works now and things like that. So what we've done is now we've defined this, what we call a combat filter, okay? And so this is all what combat is, okay? And so combat is now broken into 3 different types of attacks that you can do, okay? People always ask, well, can I use a skill? Can I use an item? What order, that type of thing. So now we've got that all figured out, okay? So if you have an item, okay, and items are going to be really new into this game, where we never had them before. We're going to have like bombs and potions and things like that that you can use. It's never been a Mythic before. So if you actually have an item this time that actually causes damage, okay, then what happens here is that you have an item attack, and then that ends your turn. But if you just have like a potion, and there's going to be lots of potions in the new Mythic too, you're just going to drink a potion, no attack, no damage, anything like that. Then what happens is then you move down into your skill attack phase, okay? Now a skill attack phase means we have some skills that cause damage, okay? So if things like shield bash, if you have a shield and you bash and you hit your target, okay? Well, that causes combat damage to whatever you're trying to go after, okay? Then what happens there is that ends your combat turn, okay? Now we've got other skills though that actually work to amplify an attack, like amplifier. We actually have a thrust, okay? And so those don't actually do damage on that particular part of the attack. Those are just getting you ready for the next one. So then that gets you down here. So don't actually do combat damage, and that actually moves you down to what we're calling our melee technique attack, okay? So if you have a skill that basically, like thrust, that actually helps a melee weapon do more damage. So you have a skill, and now you're going to thrust using a melee attack. Well, once that causes damage, then that ends your turn. If you have a technique that you're going to cast, and amplify helps to help amplify or help to get techniques with damage off also more. And so if you do a technique, then that also does damage. Well, then that also ends your turn. Now what happens right here is that if you cast a technique that just does healing, what happens here is that you go into what's called phase out, okay? And then that's the end of your turn. So theoretically, it is possible to use an item, use a skill, use a technique without causing any damage. And because that's the end, it phases out. It's the end of your turn, okay? So again, real quick, if you use an item and it does damage, that's the end of your turn. If you use a skill that causes combat damage, then that ends your turn. But if you don't use a skill that doesn't do damage, then you go down to melee. If you do an attack or use a technique that causes damage, it phases out. Or if you don't, then you just phase out, because that's the end of your turn, and then goes back to the end. So combat is definitely going to be a lot more structured this time around in 3.0. And but don't look, or don't tell anybody, because we're still working on the details on that. Okay.
Awesome. So one last thing, thank you for going ahead and watching these videos. If you like what you saw, make sure to subscribe to us and hit us up on our Patreon. Show us some love if you really want to go ahead and support Cactus Totem. We'll have the link in the description down below. But we love you guys, and we'll see you on Adonia.